وما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيرة من أمرهم ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل ضلالا مبينا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيد الأولين والآخرين وإمام المتقين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. One of the ways of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam in addressing mistakes and errors was to do that indirectly, in the sense that he would not address the people, not to confront the people directly with their mistakes, and addressing the issue in a general term so that this would be sufficient. For example, and this happened so many times, the companions report an incident and they would say that the Prophet would come and address the public, alayhi salatu wasalam, about this topic without them referring to who had done it. They don't know. So for instance, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam sees someone's spit in the wall of the masjid in the direction of the Qibla. And he was angered by that, alayhi salatu wasalam. So he addressed this to the public. In another incident, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam hears about the three of his companions who said that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was forgiven all his previous and upcoming futuristic sins. So he's not like us, therefore I would not sleep and pray all night long. The other one said, I would not eat and I would fast the whole year long. And the other one said, I would not marry women and enjoy intimacy. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam addressed this issue publicly. And he said, why do people say such and such? I pray and sleep, I eat and fast, I marry women. Whoever desires or follows other than my way, he's not from me. So the Prophet did not name them, alayhi salatu wasalam. Similarly, when he sent one of his companions to collect the zakat money, and they went to different tribes and cities and countries and came back, this person said, this is your zakat money, and this portion is mine. They gave it to me as a gift. Now we know that if this individual had not assumed such a public position, no one would have given him anything. So a police officer, a governor, someone who is dealing with the public, a sales manager, or better more, a purchasing manager, procurement manager. People give him gifts. A physician, a doctor, pharmaceutical companies give him gifts, training courses in Dubai, laptops, mobile phones. Why? So that they would cut them some slack, as they say. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. In Islam, this is defined as a bribe. Something that you're given so that you would offer a service This fee you would not have been given had you not assumed such a position. So when you give an official money from under the counter, from under the table, this is because you want him to favor you, to allow you something, to prevent you from a fine. And he, because he received the money, he would do that. This is a bribe, and it's a major sin. And the Prophet cursed, alayhi salatu wasalam, those who deal with it. So when this companion came, the Prophet went and addressed the public in the masjid, not disclosing who this person is or was, rather saying, why is it that we employ people to do public work and they come back to us saying that this is the zakat money and this was given to me? Why didn't they sit in their parents' homes and then notice, would anybody give them anything or not? The answer is definitely not. They wouldn't give you this if you did not work for the government or for the company, or you could not give them any services. They don't go around the neighborhood distributing money. They came to you because you had the signature. So this form of correcting the mistake, by not confronting the people, rather by giving a general advice that would do the job, is one of the ways of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Not every time we have to confront people. Sometimes a public speech would do. Sometimes addressing the gathering without pinpointing the person I know that he does this haram thing, without saying, you do it. No, rather reminding them generally about Allah's wrath and what Allah prepared for those sinners in their grave, and how the torment of Allah Azza wa Jal is so painful. This might do the job. And this is best because, number one, you would avoid any negative reaction when addressing people face to face. Because Satan may provoke them to reply or to retaliate or to react in a form of self-vengeance, to get even. Also, when you give a general advice, it's more appealing to individuals, to people, rather than being confronted with it. And it's also concealing that person's own sin between the people, and definitely it increases the love for the teacher and for the advice giver. When I'm being addressed among others, and I know that you mean me, and I acknowledge that that sin is in me, but you're not addressing me, rather you're giving it to everyone else, and they don't know that I'm the one who had done it, I'd love you more. I'd have more respect for you because of your way of treating such a sin or a mistake. Now, let it be known that this is not the norm, I wouldn't say the norm, this is not so generic, and it cannot be applied to all cases. Sometimes there's no escape. It's inevitable that you have to address the problem head on. It has to be. And the Prophet did this, alayhi salatu wasalam. So you have to weigh the pros and the cons. You have to measure the consequences of your actions and choose the lesser of the two evils, if there is any evil, because you are forbidding an evil and vice, and you are in joining enforcing what is righteous and virtue or virtuous. So, for example, the Prophet is giving the Friday sermon, and a man is coming and stepping over people's shoulders, trying to reach the first line of the masjid. And this happens in Jum'ah, in Friday speeches or Friday sermons all the time. Regardless of how many times the Imam brings their attention to that this is prohibited, so many times people come early, 3 hours, 2 hours before the congregation begins, and they take their seat in the first rows. And when 5 minutes remain for the Imam to start his khutbah, when the masjid is packed or almost packed, you see latecomers coming from the end of the masjid and crossing people's shoulders and necks. People are sitting next to one another. He goes and, like a hurdle race, jump all the fences to go to the first row and spread people and try to narrow the gaps so that he would find a position. And the brother is, mashallah, doing the miswak, and he's so keen on the sunnah. What are you doing? He says, oh, I want the first row. Good for you. What's the time? Oh, it's a couple of minutes before the Imam comes. So if you're so keen and eager to attain the first row, why didn't you come early? Oh, I was busy, I was reading, I was sleeping, This does not give you the right to annoy people and to take their positions and to give them hardship by squeezing them right and left. So, oh, I'm just trying to get reward. No, you want to get reward, come early. You don't want to get the reward. You want recognition. You want people to say, mashallah, he's praying in the first row. But this is not your right. It was not lawfully attained. You came late. Yet you still want people to speak, or you still want to boast about it after a few hours and say, yeah, I was in the first row. You weren't, akhi. The Prophet ﷺ once saw a man doing this, jumping over people's necks and shoulders. He interrupted his khutbah, his sermon, he interrupted it and said to the man, sit, for you are late and you're annoying and harming people. You did two mistakes. You're late. Not only that, you're adding insult to injury. You are annoying and harming people by what you're doing. Sit wherever there's a spot. Don't cross people's shoulders like this. This is not permissible. Here, the Prophet did not, alayhi salatu wasalam, speak in a general term. Rather, he addressed a particular individual. As in the hadith of Sheikh al-Ghatafani, may Allah be pleased with him, when the Prophet was also giving khutbah al-Jumu'ah, and he saw Sheikh coming in and sitting. So he interrupted the khutbah and said, Sheikh, did you pray 2 rak'ahs before sitting down? And he said, no. The Prophet said, stand up and pray 2 rak'ahs. This had to be corrected on the spot, because the man had already done this mistake. So what to do? If he spoke and addressed it generally, maybe that would not have served the purpose. Also, one of the ways of the Prophet ﷺ in addressing people's errors and mistakes and sins is to provoke public opinion against the one who has made that mistake. Some mistakes need punishment. and to be countered in the same weight of that mistake. One of the major sins in Islam is to harm and annoy your own neighbor, Muslim or non-Muslim. The Prophet says, alayhi salatu wasalam, whoever believes in Allah and the Day of Judgment must honor his neighbor. This is an etiquette. Actually, it's a ritual in our religion that a lot of the Muslims have neglected, unfortunately. And I won't go into this because it's a long topic. A man once came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, complaining of his neighbor, of his harm. Such harm could be throwing the garbage in front of your neighbor's house, taking his parking spot, turning on the music, or having loud noises, or banging on his wall, any type of discomfort. So the man kept on coming to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, complaining of what his neighbor is doing. And the Prophet would say, go and be patient. Be tolerant. He's your neighbor. Maybe he'll change. And the man kept on coming and coming. So the Prophet ﷺ, after 3 times of the man's complaint, he said, if this is the case, and he's not stopping this harm to you as a neighbor, take your furniture and clothes and put it on the walkway, on the road in front of your home. So the man did so. And of course, he was next to his furniture at the roadside. So people walking by said, why are all your furnitures and clothes on the road? Why are you doing this? So he kept telling them that my neighbor is doing so and so and so to me. And I went to the Prophet, and the Prophet ﷺ told me to do this. The moment the people heard of his neighbor's harm to him and abuse, and they heard that the Prophet ﷺ was the one who ordered him to take his stuff out, they started cursing his neighbor. May Allah curse him. May Allah does this and may Allah do this and that to him. Because they knew that he was the transgressor. When the neighbor came and saw the people cursing him and making dua against him, he realized the gravity of his sin. And the dua coming, the negative dua coming against him. So he said, listen, get your stuff back. By Allah, I will never harm you again, and you will never see something that you dislike from me. The gravity of such a mistake called for such a provocation of the people against him. You may call it public shaming, whatever, but this was required because of this man's huge mistake. Similarly, if you lend someone money and he doesn't pay it back, though he's capable, and this happens a lot. So many people come and borrow money, and then you never see them again. And you know that they have money. They're going on holidays, they're buying fancy cars, they're buying things for the kids, and they're living normally. And whenever you call them, they block you. They disregard you. They try to avoid meeting you. So what to do in such a case? We have a saying in Arabic that when someone wants money from you, they kiss your hand. Once they get the money from you and you want your money back, you kiss their feet. Because they're not going to pay you back. Not all the time, but unfortunately people nowadays think that they're smart, they're good traders by fooling others and getting their money from them and not returning it. Such a huge and grave sin requires punishment. And this is why the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, if one who can afford it, meaning he can't afford to pay back, if one who can afford it delays payment, his honor and punishment become permissible. His honor, meaning his reputation, ird. And ird in Arabic means it's the place susceptible for criticism and praise. So it's your reputation that is susceptible for such a thing. So the Prophet says, if he can pay it off, pay it back, yet he delays, then this makes his honor permissible, meaning I could sit in gatherings, I go to his workplace, I tarnish his reputation in social media saying that this individual took money from me and it's been 5 years and he's not giving it back. People who come and ask me, oh, this individual proposed to our sister. I said, no. This guy is a fraud and he's a cheater and he's a liar. He took X amount of money from me and he did not return it back. And this is totally halal. Sometimes you have to do this with people who have no fear of Allah. Provoke the public against them. Husbands who consider themselves to be men, abusing their wives, beating them up, forcing them to work and taking their salary, forcing their wives to chip in the expenses of the house and paying the rent and the utility bills, consuming their savings, building a house. The wife is thinking that this is for both of us, and all of a sudden he turns away and gets married to a second wife and uses this house to support his second marriage, and maybe kicks the first wife. And in some cases, it's the parents of the wife who bought the house, and out of good gesture and out of their own good will, they made him a co-owner, as thinking that he was a real man and he would honor their daughter. And all of a sudden, he flips and says, no, it's a gift, it's mine, I'll take it. Subhanallah. Some people don't have any honor in their faces, in their lives. And the biggest problem is when they associate this with being religious and committed to the deen. A'udhu billah. This is what hurts the most. This is like stabbing me in the heart. When someone pretending to represent religion and Islam and being a good practicing Muslim, following the Sunnah, following the correct Aqidah, and you see him deal like a weasel, like a rat. This is not Islam, but you're tarnishing the reputation of Islam. People are hating Islam because of you. And this is why such public shaming should be done in certain conditions. Again, weigh the pros and cons. Weigh whether this was an isolated random mistake, or this is a way of life that this particular individual is doing that has to be rebuked and exposed. So sometimes we need to weigh the pros and cons and act according to the way of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah we'll be right back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and welcome back. We have Ahmed from the UK.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, my question is, if my brother he uses a stolen SIM card that has that has unlimited data like as in he can access the internet through the data, and my brother does business and transactions using the stolen SIM card that has data, and he earns money, and with that money and 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 with the stolen SIM card data, you know that and with the stolen SIM card that has data, he uses it to buy my dad a phone.
I answered you this, Ahmed, on Twitter 2 weeks ago. And your father uses the phone to get Uber Eats orders and he sells and buys. So is your father's income halal? The answer is yes. I told you, I answered this. I don't know why you're repeating the same question again. Your brother's business from this SIM card, which is stolen, is haram. But at the end of the day, his business is halal all in all, because he's dealing with halal things, etc. This income was generated partially, not wholly, partially from this data that was stolen on his SIM card. So the most that we could say is that he could compensate the company or the owner of the SIM card or the likes, but your father has nothing to do with this, and his income has nothing to do with this, and Allah knows best. Amina from the Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So sometimes I know we're not supposed to eat with our left hand, but sometimes I find myself licking my left hand when maybe I'm carrying food and my thumb dips into the food, or something drops on my left hand and I'll just quickly lick it. Or sometimes when I'm drinking water and I'm eating with my right hand, so I use my left hand and I support it with the right hand. Am I sinful for doing it this way?
You're not allowed to use your left hand in eating or drinking or feeding your son with your left hand. Now, some people do this. They hold the cup with their left hand and they put it underneath the right hand and they do this so that they would convince themselves that it's the right hand that is doing the actual drinking. And this is not true, because if they were to let go of their left hand, the glass would fall. So actually it's the left hand that they're drinking with. And this is totally prohibited. One has to avoid using the left hand to the best of their ability. Maybe the only case that you're grabbing a sandwich, for example, a big cheeseburger. Some of us are fasting, so they were swallowing the saliva when I mentioned the cheeseburger. Man up. It's only a few hours. So you hold the juicy, big, fluffy cheeseburger and you take a bite. You're holding it with both hands. This might be an exception, and Allah knows best. Yasin from Mali. Yasin? Wa alaikum salam. You're speaking from within a well. Try to get out of this well.
What about now?
Okay. Give it a shot.
So, Sheikh, my question is concerning about riwayats, when one is reciting the Quran and he recites different riwayats in one ayah. Like, he doesn't do it deliberately, but is it sinful, and if it's permissible, up to which extent can he mix the riwayats while reciting Quran?
First of all, there are 7 ahruf, as we know of, that were revealed to our Prophet ﷺ, and these ahruf are found in the 10 riwayat or forms of recitations we have. Being the most prominent and well known is Hafs an Asim. There is Warsh and Nafi'. There are many, 10 of them, but this is the most famous one. Now, if a person is a scholar or a knowledgeable person of the different riwayat, he knows what riwayah this one is, and this one is, and this one is, then he may, as a form of reciting with it, give heads up to the people and tell them, listen, I'm going to recite in Salat al-Isha with this riwayah, so that people would not be confused and chaos would not be shown. And this is permissible for someone of knowledge. To mix between the riwayat is not permissible, because this goes against the etiquette of the qira'at, and the scholars of the Quran say that this is not befitting and it is causing confusion to the people praying behind you. If a person is not a student of knowledge and he does not have knowledge in qira'at, but he heard this part of the ayah and he likes it and he wants to administrate it, no, this is not permissible at all, and Allah knows best. Ahnaf from Bangladesh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam to Allah.
Sometimes I eat with other people and they ask me to pass a spoon or a glass of water. Since I eat with my hand, my right hand is usually greasy. If I use this greasy hand to give it to them, they may feel offended. So what should I do in this case?
The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, when you eat, eat with your right hand. When you drink, drink with your right hand. When you give, give with your right hand. When you receive, receive with your right hand, because the devil, Satan, eats and drinks and gives and takes with his left hand. So either you tell them that my hand is greasy, if I do this, I'm going to do it with my right hand, or you do it with your left hand and say, may Allah forgive me, but this is the only clean hand I have, and due to necessity, this might be acceptable, insha'Allah, and Allah knows best. Alima from France.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam to Allah.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I have a question like how to respect adults in Islam, the grammar that we must say to them, the tone, how we should say them, the body language, like the obligation of putting hands at the back to stand straight and separating the legs. So please, sir, thank you very much, sir. I would like to know how to respect.
There is nothing, Alima, prescribed in the Sharia handbook that says when you address your grandma, you have to stand in a particular fashion or do this or do that. The general guidelines are when you are addressing or talking with the elders, you have to be respectful. Now, what they consider to be disrespectful, if it goes against Sharia, don't pay attention to it. For example, in some countries in Africa, it is disrespectful if you don't squat to the elders. So what? It is not permissible to squat. In some countries, Asian countries, it's disrespectful if you don't bow to the elders. And again, this is against Sharia. You don't do it, even if they consider it to be disrespectful, because the guidelines are set by Sharia. Anything else is fine. So if, for example, in Sharia it says that the same gender, when you meet the elders, you kiss them on the forehead. There's no problem in that. It's a cultural thing. It's a sign of respect. That's fine. So you have to go alongside filtering the culture and the customs through the lens of Quran and Sunnah, of Sharia. And if it doesn't go against it, there's no problem in it, inshallah. Sulayha from India.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
On 21st, 23rd, 25th, and so on dates, the Imam only pray 8 rakat Taraweeh after Isha. and then 2 hours before Fajr, another Imam pray witr in my husband's masjid. Should he pray witr at home with me, or should he pray to attain the reward of praying whole night? And Sheikh, my family loves you. Allah guided us through you. Jazakallahu khairan.
وَجَزَاكُمْ, and I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that He makes your families and our families and the viewers' families all steadfast on the Quran and the Sunnah and implementing it in their lives, so that Allah would grant them this hidayah, this light in this life and in the hereafter. Ameen. As for your question, Sulayha, when a masjid has one or more imams, the collective number of imams act as one. For example, in Al-Haram, whether in Mecca or in Medina, you have multiple imams. So some imams pray 8 rak'ahs in Taraweeh, and 3-4 hours later before Fajr, another imam comes and prays another 8 or 6 rak'ahs with the witr. Would it suffice if I pray with the first imam and go? The answer is no. Would it suffice if I only pray with the second imam as he's offering witr? The answer is no. Because the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, he who prays with the imam until he concludes his night prayer, Allah would reward him as if he prayed the whole night. And this is meant by the imam who prays Isha, Taraweeh, Tahajjud, and Witr. So if there are 2 imams, they're considered to be one. You have to pray with the first one, and you have to pray with the second one. Therefore, your husband must pray with the second imam and conclude his night prayer with him. Ibrahima from Guinea.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
May Allah bless you and your family, Sheikh.
And you as well.
Sheikh, my question today is, I've been struggling since childhood from something called hypersomnia, meaning that my brain needs, let's say, around 10 to 12 hours sleep to be actually functional correctly. For example, if I sleep like 8 hours, I might, even at work, like I work remotely, when I'm in front of my computer, I doze off. Sometimes I don't even know that I'm sleeping until I wake up. It's called hypersomnia. I've consulted many doctors for it, and they say that like there's no known cure for it. Like I just have to learn to live with it. I'm still trying to do more tests and trying to do other things. But like, unfortunately, Sheikh, when I'm in this stage of my life where sleeping, let's say 10 hours is a lot of time, because of it, I have less time for doing ibadah and many other things, because it's very hard to manage all this time and everything. Because if you compare, for example, somebody sleeping 8 hours and me sleeping 10 hours, for example, is having...
Ibrahim, I get the point. What's your question?
Yeah, my question is, in Islamically speaking, do you have any advice for me in this regard?
Okay, I got your question. Now, if this is a medical condition, there is nothing you can do. As long as the doctors say that there is no medication to be given and the likes, then I can't help you with this. Now, I'm not a physician, I'm not a doctor, but I believe that everything is according to what you train and condition your body to do. So I feel that if you sleep 6 hours like normal people, wake up for Fajr and attend your work, the moment you feel tired, you go and do 10 push-ups or do 10 squats or jump the rope and go and have a small snack and come back. You will have fuel to take you for another 2 hours. And you'll get a little bit tired, do the same thing, repeat it. Take a quick shower and come back. If you manage to do these small tasks at short intervals, in like 3-4 weeks' time, your body, biological clock would be accustomed to it. And you will have enough, inshallah. Give it a shot. But if it doesn't work, then this is your test from Allah and Allah knows best. Rakib from Bangladesh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, my question is, I broke many promises in the past of which I forgot the calculation. So I estimated a number and started expiating according to that. But recently I came across one of your videos regarding the ruling of expiating in case of promising over the same thing several times. And so I found that there was an error in my previous estimation. So what should I do now? Should I estimate again and start expiating according to that?
No, you don't have to, because you have overestimated. So why would you repeat that again? If you thought that you've made 10 oaths and you've expiated them, and then you discovered later that 5 of them was on the same topic. So all what you needed was 6 expiations, maybe, or 5. Because 5 needed only 1, and the remaining 5 require 5. So this is 6. So this means that you've expiated 4 extra. There's nothing for you to do. Just move on with your life. Munir from India. Munir. Ibn Muhammad. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, actually my question is the person who does the bid'ah, asking for wasila or going to dargah and so on. So shall I be in connect with him? Even if he is my relative, shall I follow what he says?
First of all, the bid'ah is divided into 2 types. Bid'ah that takes you out of the fold of Islam, and bid'ah that is a major sin and does not take you out of the fold of Islam. The latter is much less dangerous. So someone who celebrates the Mawlid, for example, it's a bid'ah. Someone who participates in congregational dua after salat, it's a bid'ah, but it is not as serious as grave worshipping or going to dargahs or asking the dead for benefits or to protect you from harm. This takes you out of the fold of Islam. So with those who do this lesser bid'ah, yes, you can be in contact with them, try your level best to give them da'wah, while not participating in their innovation or endorsing it or turning a blind eye whenever they open the subject. You have to address it. Those who do things that take them out of the fold of Islam, you may give them da'wah. You may remind them of Allah. But if you see that they're adamant and defiant, they don't want to listen, you have to cut them off and leave them, even if they are your relatives. Ibn Muhammad from Canada.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, could you clarify how we can interact with the ayat of the Quran while reciting? And could you give us a demonstration on how?
Akhi, this is not a small topic to be addressed. The beauty of the ayat al-Quran is that it can be benefited from a vast, wide, different angles. From the aspects of aqeedah, from the aspects of fiqh, from the aspects of reminding you with Allah, softening your hearts, etc. So many miracles. So you can't just come and put a question like this and expect an answer. The more you understand the tafsir and contemplate upon these verses being spoken by Allah and addressed to you, the more interaction you would have. But if you listen to them without contemplating or pondering or understanding, most likely you would not benefit as much. So you have to learn the tafsir and try your level best to understand the meanings of it, preferably to prepare before attending the salat or the taraweeh or doing your usual dhikr or wird, and reading the tafsir of it so that you can have a better understanding, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have. Until we meet tomorrow, same time, same place, I leave you في أمان الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيرة من أمرهم ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل ضلالا مبينا.